Imagine this. You wake up one morning and look in the mirror. The face staring back at you is familiar, yet something feels off. It's not just the fine lines forming at the corners of your eyes, or the way the light hits your features differently. It's deeper than that. You can't quite name it, but you sense that something inside you, something fundamental, has shifted. Memories flood your mind. The way you used to think, the way you used to feel, the way certain words, places, and people once held power over you. But now, they don't quite hit the same. You tell yourself you've changed, you've matured, you've grown. But then a question, uninvited, intrusive, surfaces from the depths of your subconscious. Did I really change, or did I just adapt? At first, the question seems absurd. Of course you've changed. That's what life is, isn't it? Growth, evolution. The passage of time sculpting you into a wiser, more refined version of yourself. But something gnaws at you, something unsettling. Because if you look closer, you realize something sinister hidden beneath the idea of growth. Think about it. The insecurities you once had, are they truly gone, or did you just learn how to suppress them? The pain you swore you'd overcome, did you really heal, or did you just distract yourself with new pursuits, new people, new routines? The person you claim to be now, did you consciously craft them, or did they emerge as a survival mechanism, shaped by the demands of your environment? We praise ourselves for changing, but what if all we've really done is shift, adjust, mold ourselves to fit whatever circumstances life has thrown at us? What if, deep down, we remain the same creatures we've always been, haunted by the same fears, driven by the same primal instincts, just dressed in different disguises? Now, consider this. If true change is possible, why do people so often revert to old habits when under stress? Why does a person who claims to be stronger now crumble the moment life throws an unexpected hardship their way? Why does someone who swears they have moved on from the past still flinch at the sound of a certain name, still dream of things they thought they had buried? This is the paradox of human nature. We believe in transformation, yet our core patterns remain eerily consistent. We reinvent ourselves time and time again, yet the ghosts of our former selves linger in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to reemerge. So, the question stands, do we truly change, or do we just adapt to survive? Hold on to that thought, because the answer is far more unsettling than you think. You weren't always who you are now. There was a time when your mind worked differently, when your reactions were raw, unfiltered, uninhibited by experience. You laughed without hesitation. You feared without logic. You desired without restraint. But as life happened, you learned. Or rather, you were taught. Taught to toughen up. Taught to be polite. Taught to suppress the chaos inside you so you could function in a world that demands predictability. And in the process, something happened. You began adapting. But what if adaptation isn't the same as transformation? Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." This is the core of the issue. Most people don't change, they just learn how to behave in ways that make their lives easier. They swap masks, they refine their performances. But beneath the surface, the same unresolved fears, desires, and instincts continue to pull the strings. Think about the person who grows up being neglected. They enter adulthood telling themselves they've moved past it, that they are strong and independent now. But watch closely. They either become people pleasers, desperately seeking validation, or they build walls so high that no one can ever truly reach them. They call it growth. But is it? Or is it merely a sophisticated defense mechanism? Nietzsche, in his relentless critique of human nature, believed that most people are not actively becoming, but rather reacting. He warned that what we call self-improvement is often just a way to cope with suffering, not to transcend it. This is why, despite years of growth, people find themselves trapped in familiar cycles. The person who once feared abandonment may become the one who abandons first. The person who suffered under a controlling parent may become obsessively independent, only to realize they feel lost without control. Schopenhauer took it further. To him, human existence was not a journey of change, but a cycle of endlessly chasing what we lack. He argued that desire is insatiable. Once one problem is solved, another arises. We call it progress, but in reality, we are just shifting our focus from one form of suffering to another. This explains why so many people, despite claiming to have moved on, still find themselves haunted by the same emotional undercurrents. They may no longer be consumed by anger, but they are bitter. They may no longer feel fear, but they live cautiously, avoiding risks that might bring it back. They have adapted, but they have not transformed. And then there's Sartre, who introduced an even darker possibility. That identity itself is a construct we create to survive. In other words, we don't change. We simply curate a version of ourselves that best fits our environment. The moment that environment shifts, our so-called growth unravels. Ever notice how different you are around certain people? How your personality shifts depending on the setting? The confident leader at work may become submissive at home. The person who is warm and engaging with friends may be cold and distant in romantic relationships. These contradictions aren't anomalies. They are proof that we are not changing, but adapting to the roles we need to play to maintain stability. And here's the most disturbing part. If adaptation is merely a response to external forces, then it means most people never truly become who they are. They just become what their circumstances demand of them. Let that sink in. What if everything you believe about your personal growth is just an illusion? What if the self you've carefully crafted over the years isn't real, but merely a patchwork of learned behaviors, emotional survival tactics, and social conditioning? And if that's the case, what does it actually mean to change? If you've ever wondered why certain habits, fears, or patterns keep repeating in your life, despite all your efforts to change, this is why. Adaptation is not transformation. It is camouflage. It is the mind's way of ensuring survival, not self-actualization. And this subtle deception has consequences far greater than we realize. Look around. How many people do you know who claim they've changed, yet their actions tell a different story? The man who says he's learned from his past mistakes, but still sabotages every good thing in his life. The woman who claims she's moved on, yet still chases relationships that echo her childhood wounds. The person who says they've let go of anger, yet the slightest offense sends them into a silent rage. It's not a coincidence, it's a pattern. Neuroscience backs this up. The human brain is wired for efficiency, not truth. When we change, we are often just rewiring our responses to pain, stress, or discomfort, not eliminating the core issue itself. Neural pathways don't simply disappear, they get rerouted. The fear you once had of being abandoned may now manifest as a need to control others. The insecurity you had about not being good enough may now take the form of relentless perfectionism. The emotion remains, the expression changes, and this is why most people remain trapped in their own psychological loops, convinced they've evolved, when in reality they've merely swapped one mask for another. It is called the prison of social conditioning. Take this idea beyond the individual and apply it to society. Society does not want you to truly change. Society needs you to adapt, to fit neatly into the machine, to play your role without question. From the moment you are born, you are conditioned, taught to follow, taught to obey, taught to suppress the parts of yourself that don't conform. When you are too wild, society tells you to calm down. When you are too independent, it tells you to work as a team. When you are too questioning, it tells you to trust the system. And so, without even realizing it, you mold yourself, you adjust, you tell yourself you are growing. But what's really happening is social domestication. Nietzsche warned against this. He argued that society does not cultivate greatness, it suppresses it. He believed most people never become their true selves because they are too busy adapting to the expectations placed upon them. This is why history remembers the rebels, the outcasts, the ones who refused to just adapt, the ones who did not let circumstances dictate their identity, the ones who tore through the illusion of social conditioning and became something more. Let us talk about the illusion of personal growth. And now we arrive at the most unsettling question of all. If most people are just adapting, if society encourages conformity over true transformation, then how many of your own so-called changes are genuine? When you say you've become more confident, did you really, or did you just learn how to hide your insecurity better? When you say you've healed from the past, did you actually heal, or did you just fill the void with distractions? When you say you're a better person now, is that truly who you are, or is it just the role you've learned to play? This is the terrifying part about human nature. We are masters of self-deception. We think we are evolving when we are merely shape-shifting. adjusting to fit the pressures of life, rewriting our stories to make them feel meaningful, disguising our wounds so well that we even fool ourselves. But deep down, the same unresolved fears, the same buried desires, the same fundamental essence remains. So, if adaptation is not true change, then what is? This is where most people get stuck. They sense something is off, that despite all their growth, they keep running into the same existential walls. But instead of breaking free, they double down. More distractions, more self-improvement strategies, more masks. But what if real transformation requires something radical? Carl Jung believed that true change could only happen through shadow work, the process of confronting the hidden, repressed parts of yourself. He argued that most people remain stagnant because they refuse to face their own darkness. They avoid it, bury it, call it the past, and pretend it no longer exists. But what is ignored does not disappear. It festers, waiting for the right moment to re-emerge. To truly change, you must stop running. You must turn around and face the very things you've spent your entire life avoiding. The insecurities you cover up with confidence, the fears you disguise as ambition, the wounds you hide beneath your success. You must step into the abyss, willingly, because until you face what controls you, you will never be free. This is the death of the old self. But facing your shadow is not enough, because once you see the truth, the real, unfiltered, uncomfortable truth, you must make a decision. Will you continue adapting, or will you destroy the illusion? This is what Nietzsche meant when he spoke of the death of the old self. He believed that true transformation requires more than just new habits or new mindsets. It requires the complete destruction of who you once were. Not a slow shift, not a gradual adaptation, but a violent, undeniable rebirth. Most people are too afraid to do this. They cling to their old identities, to the comfort of familiarity. They tell themselves they're changing, but in reality, they are just modifying the same fundamental patterns. But those who dare, those who kill the version of themselves that was built for survival, are the ones who finally break free. Let us talk about the art of becoming. The question is, how do you break free? 1. Expose the lies you tell yourself. Every time you say, "I've changed," question it. Is it real, or is it adaptation? Have you transformed, or have you just become better at pretending? Brutal honesty with yourself is the first step. 2. Face your shadow completely. The parts of yourself you've been avoiding, your fears, your wounds, your contradictions, these are the keys to your real transformation. Don't suppress them. Study them. Interrogate your own darkness. 3. Destroy the old you. Not modify, not adjust. Destroy. The version of yourself that was built by external expectations must die. Your fears of rejection, your need for validation, your reliance on comfort, they must be burned away. 4. Rebuild from nothing. Once you strip away the illusions, you are left with something terrifying, an empty space. Most people fear this void. They rush to fill it with something, anything, to avoid the discomfort of true self-recreation. But this void is where real transformation happens. Sit in it. Let it reshape you. This is the path to true change. This is not an easy process. It's not comfortable. It's not quick. But those who go through it emerge as something different. Not as people who merely adapt to survive, but as people who have become who they were meant to be. Not followers, not products of circumstance, not echoes of past wounds, but something entirely new. And that is the only real transformation. But this leads us to the final, most unsettling realization of all. Because if true change means destroying everything you thought you were, then who are you, really? Imagine standing at the edge of a vast, silent void. Everything you once believed about yourself, the habits, the fears, the identities, has been stripped away. There is no more pretending, no more adapting, no more playing roles designed for survival. What remains? Who remains? Most people will never reach this point. The thought of losing their carefully crafted self terrifies them. They would rather live within the confines of a known illusion than step into the unknown reality of who they truly are. But here is the ultimate truth. You have never been who you thought you were. The person you called yourself was a construct, a collection of reactions to pain, social conditioning, and unconscious survival mechanisms. A mask designed to navigate a world that demanded compliance. And once you tear that mask away, you come face to face with the deepest, most haunting question of all. If you are not your past, not your labels, not your adaptations, then what are you? The birth of the authentic self. This is where most people get lost. They reach this point, feel the weight of nothingness, and panic. Their instinct is to cling to something, anything to re-establish an identity, to rebuild the illusion just so they don't have to stare into the abyss. But the abyss is not your enemy. It is your birthright. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote about this moment, the moment when a person moves beyond mere existence and becomes a true creator, not of art, not of success, not of external achievements, but of themselves. This is where real transformation begins, not with external change, not with adaptation, but with the realization that you are the only one who can define yourself, not society, not your past, not your fears, only you. Let us learn to live beyond adaptation. The greatest tragedy of human existence is that most people never reach this level of self-awareness. They spend their lives reacting, adjusting, and conforming, believing they are changing when they are merely refining their ability to survive. But you are not meant to just survive. You are meant to evolve, not through adaptation, but through creation. This is why true change is so rare. It requires more than effort, more than willpower, more than time. It requires a rebirth of perception, a willingness to become something that does not yet exist, a courage to step into the unknown and write your own script, rather than playing a role handed to you by the world. We have come to the final realization. The question remains the same. Do we truly change, or do we just adapt to survive? Most people will only adapt. Few will ever change. Even fewer will be brave enough to destroy themselves and start again. And now, the question is no longer philosophical. It is personal. Which one will you be?